Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Dan Miller for Bluegrass Unlimited magazine. And last time we talked a little bit about starting to think about improvisation on the banjo. We talked about how to play I Saw the Light, just rolling over chords. And then we added notes from the major pentatonic and major blues scale to sort of get close to the melody of that song. The melody of that song is sort of built from those scales, so it wasn't too hard to replicate the melody. When I'm teaching banjo students, I like to encourage them to improvise pretty soon in their process. I'll teach them tunes. First I start with teaching them rolls and get them really strong with that right hand and the roll patterns. Then I'll teach them the basic chords, and again just the open, open G, the C chord here, the D chord here at the 2nd fret. And then when they know their rolls and those chords, they can start learning to improvise, okay? They have a little bit of trouble with that because they say, I don't know what roll to put where and things like that. If you're in that situation, if you've just been memorizing songs, either that you're learning from a video or some tablature, and you don't know how to break away from that, that seems to be when people start to learn how to improvise. To break away from things that you've memorized or things that you have on paper and just start creating in the moment is scary, and people have a hard time getting there. Well, my philosophy is if you start doing that early on, and this is why I get my students starting to just mess around early on, trying to play something without looking at the paper, without having memorized it, it really helps. Now what I usually do is after they learn their rolls and their basic chords, I teach them, the first song I usually teach all my students that are beginners is Boil the Cabbage Down. Very simple song, and it's a 1-4-5 progression in the key of G, so it's G, C, and D chords, and all the notes of this song are right there in the chords. So you don't have to leave the chords to get the melody of the song in there. And so that makes it easier, and that makes it easier to learn how to improvise. And like I said last time, all you need to do is do your various rolls over top of the chords. Now let me show you how I teach the first iteration of Boil the Cabbage Down. It's primarily just using a forward roll over the chords, and then we'll talk about how you might start to play around with that in the context of using different rolls over those and then mixing those rolls together. And at that point, when you start doing that and mixing different rolls at different times, you're taking your first steps towards improvisation. So it doesn't have to be real scary. So let me just show you how I play it to begin with. So it's going to go like this. So there you have just the basic tune, and I've tabbed that out to go along with this lesson, that version of it. And again, it's just G, C, G, D, G, C, G, D, G, okay? And, that's the melody. Very simple. And you can fit various rolls around that just to start learning how to do it. And so when I get my students, after they've learned that version of the song using primarily that forward roll, I'll say, go home and see if you can play it with a alternating roll or a backward roll or a forward backward roll. It's not going to sound exactly the same, but you can get it sounding close enough with those various rolls. And then after you do that, you can start mixing those rolls together and then start creating improvisations just within the context of using your various rolls over the song Boil the Cabbage Down. I'll show you some examples. Let's try a variation using the alternating roll. I could go like this. Okay, I could use a forward-backward roll like this. Or maybe also a backward roll like this. Okay, so there's alternating, forward, backward, backward, and we started with forward. So let's mix those up now, and I'll start out with the backward roll. Go with alternating roll, forward roll, alternating roll, forward, backward, alternating. So play around with that. Various ways you might mix and match your rolls up to play that song so it's not so monotonous as an all forward roll. You know, that could get monotonous after a while, and the exercise will get you used to playing something that you've not memorized, combining your rolls over your chords. That's the first step, I think, to start learning how to improvise on the banjo. And if you know how to play Boil the Cabbage Down one way, try mixing up all your rolls to see what different ways you can come up with and still sound close to the song. You don't have to have the exact melody notes in the exact right place. The melody notes could shift here and there. You might notice when I was doing the alternating roll, this is a melody note, that B and then that C. I was playing my alternating roll like that, but I was playing that first note soft and then hitting the melody note hard. So the melody note is shifting an eighth note in time from where it's supposed to be, but it still can sound okay. So just play around with that, using all your rolls. Get familiar with your rolls first, and use all your rolls over various chords. A good thing to do from here is just go online, go to YouTube, search on 1-4-5 progression in G, and you can find a progression on YouTube that's just a simple 1-4-5-1 progression, and try to play different rolls holding your chord positions while that rhythm track is going by, and try it differently every time. This is another thing that I recommend to my students to do, is get that 1-4-5 rhythm track, you know, go to the Bluegrass Unlimited website, and the song Blue Ridge Cabin Home has that exact chord progression, 1-4-5-1. Get that rhythm track going, and then roll your rolls over your chords as that rhythm track is going by, and see if you can switch up your various rolls. And I think you'll start to get a feel for some freedom in your banjo playing, where you can start to improvise on songs you don't know, like I demonstrated last week with I Saw the Light. So have fun with Boil the Cabbage Down, and we'll see you next time. This is Dan Miller for Bluegrass Unlimited magazine. Thanks.